Today, my guest is Rico Smith. Rico is running for the Hillsborough County Commissioner office right now. He's a decorated airman and has lived a valuable life, a really incredible situation. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this position.
Thank you, James, for having me here today, and give a special thanks to Shuffle and Presentation Hell. Born and raised here in Hillsborough County, been in my entire life. Served currently in the Air Force Reserves as a finance officer, and on the outside, I'm a healthcare consultant. And I just felt that it was time to run, given the turmoil that we're currently facing not only in this community but in this country. So looking to bring the hope and change that we all deserve back to this community.
Well, that's excellent. What are the key issues, the key things that you think that motivated you to run for the position? What did you see that said, this needs to be fixed and that needs to be fixed? What are those issues?
Yes, my top two items. Number one was the transparency. Given that it feels as though we just don't have the trust of our elected officials that they have.
No, we don't. By the way,
yeah, like that they lost our best interest at heart, and then also standing on infrastructure and housing affordability, which leads into a multitude of things: workforce housing development, affordable housing, and so those are my top two items on my agenda, ensuring that we can truly live up to the American dream of home ownership, but then also have the infrastructure that can support this growing community.
Okay, let's look at the first one, transparency. Now, I'm going to be a little cynical here, is that I have seen most of the politicians who claim transparency, when they get there, you don't get anything. And it's the ones who everyone attacks for some reason are more transparent, but everyone says they're not, because they're being investigated and everything's out in the open, and they bite their nail and suddenly they're like, he's nervous, and then it goes down the line. What are you going to do to make it different here now today? What are some of the actions you would take?
Well, it all starts with an open door policy, right? And I was chatting with someone yesterday, and I said, we have to hold our elected officials accountable. Right? We continue down this perpetual cycle of voting in the same career politician time after time, but yet we haven't seen any change, any meaningful change in our community, all right? But then they said, well, think about it like this, right? Not only do we have to hold our elected officials accountable, but our elected officials have to hold themselves accountable. Right?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Are you kidding?
You get in office and you make all these promises and you go in there expecting to change the world, but then you're there and you're approached by the special interests, you're approached by the lobbyists, but you have to stand firm in your morals and what you truly believe, and knowing that there is a greater good, and that leads into why I joined the United States Air Force, right? For doing something that's bigger than myself. A bigger purpose. And so the transparency of that is knowing that you're going to have an open door to policy, and if you don't like my policies, you don't like the way I legislate, or in my first term in office, then guess what? Then you, as a as a citizen, a rightful voter, have the right to go in there and cast your ballot. You have the right to protest, and you have the right to say, hey, let's get this guy to office, and that's what we should be doing for all of our elected officials.
So so you're talking about transparency for all elected officials. I agree with that 100%. I think a proper way of transparency will keep people accountable. I mean, the concept of honesty is a different issue altogether. I do believe everyone goes into the office with a good heart, wanting to do the right thing, and you kind of alluded to it, that once you're in office, suddenly you're being approached by the special interest. And the special interest might be someone who owns a forest of trees nearby. And suddenly you're on the land management committee and he gave you 25 grand on the backside. He doesn't have to pat you on the back again because you know where that money's coming from. What actions could be done to give the voters the confidence that this is transparent? It's not just, the president tell me that's what it is, believe me. It's like, I forget who said it, but you trust but confirm. You trust but verify. I believe what you're saying. I'd like to see the books. It's like if I think the company's books aren't right, and I say, can I see an accounting? And they go, what do you mean you want an accounting? How could you want that? Yeah. You suddenly know something's going on. This is a form of a true accounting of a government official.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this is already in place. If you look at Hillsborough County, there's a citizens advisory board where you can bring multiple issues before the county commission, and then those recommendations are then brought to the county commissioners. You also look at for a big vote or budgetary changes, there has to be 2 public hearings, right? Required, mandated by the charter before it can then be voted on. And so I think a lot of it is that we have the citizens come before, but a lot of it is just one ear and out the other. And so it's not sticky, right? It's not concrete. And because
and it's not accessible. It's hard to get to these meetings and really understand. Yeah. And even when you're there, you don't get a voice.
Yeah. And, a lot of times, we've said this in smaller circles is that, well, you look at the meeting schedules and they're always during the middle of the day. People at work, someone has to drop their kid off to school. They can't just break away for a 10:30, a.m. hearing or for an 11 or noon hearing. So having those meetings maybe, in the evening, 5:30, 6:30. And that's one thing, that was held for the budgetary hearing just last month. Luckily, both of those public hearings were easily accessible, in the evening hours. And so it's making it more accessible to our local population.
Well, here's an idea on it, and I don't know if this is in play, but I think about transparency, and then I think of like social media, Facebook or what have you. Why couldn't these meetings be a social media group, and therefore all the minutes and activity goes into the feed of that specific meeting, and therefore anyone within Hillsborough County or whatever could actually see the minutes and hear the verbiage going on and listen to what exactly you committed to, not what the news outlet told me you should be committed to, because the news outlet has their own agenda and it might be aligned with yours, it might not be. I don't know, for me, I get a lot of things online and I'm like, God, that makes me so mad. And then they'll say, but you don't know anything about it. And I go to Florida.gov and I'm like, here is the actual bill number 202 and here's the writing of it. That's me. How could we let that stuff come to the top? So modernize. How do we, I don't have an answer there. I almost seem simplistic, like, let's just make a group, Hillsborough County Commissioner, and your daily schedule's there and the issues you're dealing with and who you're meeting with and what's going on. And I could just glance at it as an average human being.
Yeah. I think a lot of it more is just bringing it to light, right? If you go to the Hillsborough, county government website, you can find all the minutes, right? All the consent agenda items that are coming up. I mean, you can, cast out, for months in advance. You see all of that. And even when it comes to, obviously the agenda, if it comes to, just wanting to do a broadcast, everything is live broadcast.
Nowadays, everything is. Yeah, I mean, they're even putting it in people's glasses. I could be sitting here, putting it down. It's truly amazing.
I think a lot of it is just really, bringing light to the issue. If I can't attend in person to the Hillsborough County Board of Commissioners meeting, I'm there watching it on my phone or my iPad, live streaming it. And so I think it's just publicizing that and making the public aware that, hey, you have.
It's almost packaging it and making it easily available,
like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, so that's why I keep thinking Facebook as a group, as the what I mean. That it seems because then I can follow it and suddenly get a note that says, hey, there was an issue about parking in downtown Tampa that they're discussing today. I got towed. I have an issue there. I want to learn more. Yeah. I mean, as an average guy right now, that seems almost daunting to start searching that. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just a thought that way.
And even it's funny you say that. I was watching a meeting 2 weeks ago, and I thought, man, if instead of me having to dig through this 1.5, 2 hour long YouTube video, can I just have a highlight of when someone said what's a key word, or or when there was a consent was voted on, or when they had a certain land use vote within that meeting, right? So I like it. I like that point.
So let's take what you just said a little further, and I'm going to plug AI into that. Yeah. If we had the data set of all of those meetings, literally, you could put a page that has a few prompts on it that says, give me an overview of the meeting concerning parking in downtown Tampa. Yeah. And it'll turn out from the minutes, from everything, and say, oh, the parking issue was discussed at 14 minutes and 35 seconds and spent 7 minutes on it. The big issue seemed to be the fines and placement of it and flooding of vehicles in areas that are supposed to be protected. The solution was X, Y, and Z, and these 15 people came and spoke about it, and John Jones was the most energetic, and it was, he was upset because, 5 cars in his driveway got destroyed.
I mean, well, I'll tell you now, so taking a step further, you think about, applying that, and like you said, to ChatGPT, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's literally where I was coming from, using the data set of it. Yeah. And I'm gonna jump off a little bit about AI here for a minute. Is right now AI covers the whole world. You go out there, and if you were doing a story on banking, you might get research from Bank of America, Wells Fargo, PNC, like the Federal Reserve. You don't really know the data set that comes from it. But when you go to a doctor, let's say you go to a podiatrist, a foot doctor, you go to that person because that person's an expert in it. Their data set is about your toes, your bones, your ankles, the ligaments, everything that goes into it. So you discuss these things with that person, and the next person discusses with that person, and the next patient discusses, and that person becomes so knowledgeable that you go there for it. Now, think of that data set being the knowledge base of being a podiatrist. Now, think of the data set as the Hillsborough County Commissioner. If everything that goes through the brain of the commissioner and all the items are in one set, I can go to a page and say, let me ask the commissioner this question. And it's about parking. It's about rubbish removal. It's about transportation. It's about whatever it might be on the plant on the table. You can then make that data set specifically like they're talking to you based on all that knowledge.
I see that. I like that explanation, knowing what commissioner, and who has the expertise in what areas. Mm-hmm. Right? One commissioner is going to be stronger on knowledgeable on transportation, and then one could be maybe more knowledgeable on parks and recs, mm-hmm. right? Or workforce development. So I like that, being able to apply that and knowing what commissioner knows what and who to reach out to.
And the key to doing it is identifying the data set.
Yeah.
Where that data set's coming from. It's kind of like, and I'll go to the podiatrist. That podiatrist went to college and went to medical school, and that's that person's data set. So you go to them to get expertise on it. I have a different data set, and you have one as well, and I'm talking to you because you have expertise in it. I'm trying to adapt the current AI information to make our jobs and responsibilities more transparent. This is all on transparency because this is the first issue you brought up. And I want to, I'm not saying this can be put into play. Actually, this can be put in play and everything's available right now. But I believe that people would be understanding it better because they could say, talk to the county commissioner. And they're talking to AI, but AI is based on your knowledge set.
It's in the knowledge set of what that previous county commissioner taking multiple meetings, multiple minutes.
That's right.
Able to have all of that within one accessible place, where now you don't have to maybe do a live contact, but you can use it through AI, a live chat.
Yeah.
On Hillsborough County's website.
And all the research is done on it right off the bat because it's like talking to an expert, the expert in it, and in turn probably can give you insights on your own job.
Yeah. But then I think it opens up another can of worms because you look at the government, they're always just behind the times when it comes to
well, they don't really want this, by the way. They'll say that. Nothing personal. I know you're running and he's saying this, but I find that people get into office with pure hearts, and after a year goes by, they realize, oh, I was paid by that guy. And then the next year goes by and you see the process, and it makes it easier to, oh, that just goes through. I don't need to be seen with you. I don't need to shake your hand. I know you're paying me on the other side. I'm going to do the right thing when I'm in my commission meeting because that's what's, send my wife to Disney World and the kids are going over there. And however the paybacks are coming, I'm not being cynical here, but and bringing that all together. And as time goes by, corruption happens because it's too easy. That's why, Congress is loaded with 40-year people. And the problem is we're probably, I don't know, we're whatever, but chances are we as Americans are paying the price because Mitch McConnell pinched Nancy Pelosi's ass at the senatorial cotillion in 1984, and she's been pissed at him ever since, and we've been paying the price on every time they negotiated between then and now.
Yep. Backdoor deals.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, you know, it makes it hard. And the concept of term limits, I actually have a good solution for this. You want a real good solution?
I would love to hear that, yes.
All right. So everyone elected to Congress, Senate, and the House of Reps has to have a digital blockchain a dialogue of everything they do. So we know where you're going, who you're meeting with, what you're voting on, who the interests on it. It also aligns who gives you money so that it's one database saying, oh, I spoke to the Housing Commission, I'm on this, and these people are doing it. So it does a full log, a dossier of your entire existence there. Now we do term limits, whatever it is, 8 years, 4 years, 12 years, whatever it is. At the end of your term, the responsibility of the next person is to do a research on the previous one and say what's above water and what isn't. So therefore, they have to be kept honest because the next one who takes your job, if you don't like you, has the responsibility of overturning rocks that might have been bad. And in turn, they start acting in such a way, knowing that this information is going to be available, and therefore, no one knows about that, so it doesn't matter. But they wouldn't be able to stop it. It'd be part of the system. And therefore, we'd have nice flow. We'd have good understanding. It would cull to the top of all the corruption of what's going on because you would instantly see the money against the issue, the topic, where you went, how you were paid, what was going on, and it in turns becomes a true annals of American politics.
And being able to have a record or a track record of the progress that was made for that district, the progress that, the money that was brought back, to that state or, to that district. And so, that then opens up the question of obviously, if we dive into, implementing something like that, if it would ever come about, hypothetically, then, you have to be able to discern between what is needed necessity for public knowledge, but then also, too, what needs to be secured for national defense purposes.
Understood.
And so, that's a very interesting take. I've never heard someone mention it to that degree. So,
well, it takes the blockchain mentality, which is ledger accounting, i.e., I paid for something last year. I can't change that transaction, but I can give you a rebate today based on you returning it. That's a new thing in it.
That's right.
And if we did a blockchain on every single elected official that way and giving it, and yes, things can be blocked out and do it, but it would give the logic and accounting and give transparency. But B, it would also be the data set that AI can point to that you can ask human questions about. I could ask a question, was Rico really transparent when talking about this issue? And then it would go through and say, well, he had an appointment with this person who owns all the land in the area, and there was no statements about it. That's questionable. There's another one here where he came out and said there's 4 points that make sense, and this is what we're doing, and we think that, and that those reports would come almost immediately. And I would bet some people we think are corrupt might be much better than not. Yeah. And some people that we really think are clean as can be might be the dirtiest people that have ever walked through the halls of Congress.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bias that goes into that. And then also, too, just with the, if you implement that, a lot of it right now is just done analog, right? It's done manually by a third party, or, or
those days are gone, my friend. This is happening really quickly.
This, and being able to turn it around real time.
Yeah, this is all very real. So, Rico, you're running for office here. We're going to take a break in a minute. I want to give you 30 seconds right now. You started it off saying transparency, housing, and what's going on. Give us a moment here. Talk to the audience. Tell us why should we be voting for you in Hillsborough?
Well, if you look at, having filed just 10 weeks ago, we reported our Q3 reports,
$33,000. Nice
Yes,
job
thank you.
fundraising. You're kicking ass in relation to everyone else.
Thank you so much. With an additional amount, grand amount to my, friends of Rico Smith. And so when you look at that, I've been able to amass a great deal of money in a short period of time, outraising all other opponents combined, and then securing the endorsements of, Sheriff Chad Chronister, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. It speaks to my broad appeal across. And then so I look at it as, you need to get behind someone. It takes three things for a great candidate to win an election.
Three things for a candidate. You've got them. Let's hear them. Let's hear the three that are you.
One is having the resources and the infrastructure behind you. Right?
Okay, resources and infrastructure.
And number two, the experience, right, and the background, being connected to the community. And then number three, which brings it all together, is being able to have the charisma, right, and the know-how. And that's when you're able to resonate and connect with individuals. And those are the three things that I bring to the table. And that's why we have to bring someone who's fresh, young, vibrant perspective back to the county commission.
This episode of Presentation Hell is brought to you by Shuffler. Shuffler is AI presentations for the enterprise. Faster, smarter, compliant presentations. Helps everyone tell better stories. Is this the first time you're running for office?
This is my first time running for office. I'm running for Hillsborough County Commission District 6, which is a county-wide seat, meaning that anyone in Hillsborough County can vote. And this
Everyone in Hillsborough County can vote. Oh.
Yes. So we're very excited. The election, they do have a primary opponent, so it's going to be August 20th of 2024. And my general election will be November 5th, 2024.
So you've got a fair amount of time and runway to make this happen.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. What brought you to, obviously make a decision to go into politics? That takes a lot of heart and a lot of direction, and you usually you see some wrongs that you want to right. Someone wants to do that. But tell me a little bit about you when you were young and what made this person that's here today.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised here in East Tampa, went to Middleton High School, alma mater. 2014 is the year I graduated. 27 years old, and I look at it as that my age does not define me. It is my morals, it's my upbringing, it's my experience and my ideas that define who I am and what I can bring to the table. And so my grandparents actually raised me. My parents were young when they had me. And it's coming up, I remember sitting in geography class in the seventh grade watching Obama's inauguration. I had tears in my eyes thinking, wow, hope
this is amazing. Yeah.
If he can do it, so can I. Someone of my skin color holding the highest elected office. But yet, hope and change never did come to East Tampa. It never came to my community. It never came to my household, right? I recall.
It's one thing to give the stuff out there. It's another to actually enact it.
And to actually enact it. And so, you look at it. I remember my mom, single mother, working two jobs, right, just to put food on the table. And her insurance, healthcare insurance, just for the two of us, went from over $230 a month to $480 a month. Unforeseen, and that was a direct result of the ACA Obamacare.
Same thing happened to me and my family, and I lost health insurance for like 5 months, and I couldn't even share that we didn't have health insurance because everyone was so politically motivated that it was good. Mine went from $1,500 to $3,300 for my whole family in like 15 months.
Wow.
So keep going. I'm sorry. I identify with what you're saying.
So we both resonate on that. And so that's when I went, wow, okay, wait a minute. Something's not right here. I want to be more politically involved when when I'm older in age. And so I remember from 2008, up through in 2012, I thought, hey, this Mitt Romney guy, I kind of like a little bit what he's saying, but my grandmother, no, this is a Democrat household. You'll never ever speak about a Republican. And then in 2016, I left, moved on. I joined the Air Force at this time, and I went, man, okay, this Donald Trump guy, what he said, and I recall it vividly. He said, what do you have to lose? Speaking to the black community. He went, your schools are horrible, right? You're getting arrested. You're locked up. What do you have to lose by voting Republican? And I just went, wow, for some reason that just resonated, with me. And so, watching his tenure, I mean, you look at just, the change and the growth that we experienced in the country, record low inflation. I mean, lowest Black unemployment. Lowest Hispanic unemployment. And so you thought, wow, I actually saw a change. In
gas
my
prices were down. The border was secure. There was no new wars being put out by us.
That's right. So you take it all aside. Yes, people. He's polarizing, right? Yes, the mean tweets, everyone likes to hit him on. But when we look at the policies that were implemented, they actually, affected us in a positive manner, that I think. And so
you were acting logically, not emotionally.
Correct. Logically, not emotionally. So then that's when it fast forward to me wanting to get involved in politics as well. In 2020, good friend of mine, Congressman Gus Bilirakis, who serves for Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus counties, just north of here. And I remember he invited me to go out for dinner one evening in the Capitol Hill Club. And then from there, we just immediately bonded.
Is that where you got bit by the bug?
And I got bit by the bug, and I went, okay, because I saw how everyone respected him. I saw the morals he had, and I saw that he stood against the wrongs that was going on. And I said, this is a guy that I look up to. This is someone that I believe, that could take me under his wing, and that's what he did. And so from there was when it really just catapulted me into meeting Governor DeSantis, right? Meeting Governor, now Senator Rick Scott, and then just a multitude of other political figures. And I thought, okay, well, that's at the federal level, but guess what? What can we do here at the county level? What can we do here for the community when I was born and raised in? And so then that's when I did my homework, and I did my research, and I said, all right, well, guess what? We have an open seat coming up. In 2024, Commissioner Pat Kemp is terming out. And I said, this is a prime opportunity to actually be able to start here in the community and bring real change.
It's funny you say that because, and I like the way you said that, because many people want to go out and change the world, and they don't know how to change their underwear. I mean, it's like there's a saying that if you want to go out to change the world, you should take care of your own house first.
That's right.
And if you can't take care of your own house, how can you change something else? And if you're able to take care of your own house and your own peace and your own job, you can do good enough to maybe employ people at the job. And if you can employ them well, maybe you're good enough to affect the whole community and join the community in a way. And if you can join the community, you might be able to affect the whole state. And if you affect the whole state, you might be able to get to the thing of affecting the nation. And you seem to have that very logical approach of, I'm going to make my bed this morning. You've probably heard that analogy. And because I've made my bed, I can go accomplish the second thing and move on and make myself a little better so that when I'm good enough, I can affect the rest of the world.
Absolutely. I believe that, being in the military, hospital corners.
Yep. I get it. I get it.
All the time. And so, being able to make your bed, right? But then, and then knowing how to bring the community leaders, the thought leaders to the table. And that's what this is about. It goes back, to before the commercial, talking about, you sit down with certain people, but, not everybody that should be at the table is sitting at the table.
True.
Right?
True.
And that is one of my key points, is being able to have
getting the right
community leader, every community leader, the right individuals at the table to voice, right, their concerns, to voice their opinions, and how we can actually get change, right, and not only serving just one portion of the population.
How do you get the over-voiced blowhards off of that table that their time has come and gone, and because they've been there so long, they have an outweighed effect on the whole table? How do you ease that out? How do you, get rid of the old boy network, so to speak?
The old boy network. Well, Hillsborough County has experienced exponential growth, over the past few years.
I'm part of it.
Yeah. And so, I've seen that. And so I think just naturally, it's going to just wean its way out, because, that landscape has changed so much. And we even saw just this past election cycle, people predicted and thought, the election was going to go a certain way, and it was complete polar opposite of what they had thought. And so that is showing, the true change that we're experiencing here in Hillsborough. I speak to the point of knowing that when I'm elected, every legislative policy, every vote, that I cast, right, is going to have some effect that I'm going to bear witness to in the future. I will be here to witness that and live through that. My kids will one day, right? I don't have any kids, and I'm single at the moment. But I know at some point I want to live, grow, and work in this community, right? And so I want to implement the policies that are going to positively affect me, right, and all my constituents. And so that's why I have the skin in the game to actually be forward thinking and to truly implement policies that are going to have a greater good.
Yeah, well, you're putting forth something that I think a lot of elected officials avoid, and it's a single word. It's called accountability.
That's right.
And that's what it sounds like the key issue. Accountability gives transparency. Accountability gives responsibility. It gives the ability to look at a bad decision and fix it, or look at a good decision and double down on it.
Yeah, we can't just keep sweeping, right, these issues under the rug. And that has been the issue that we've had here. You look at the past 10 years, we've spent $220 million towards these nonprofits. And the current county commissioner, Josh Wolstow, brought that to light. We have been fully funding many nonprofits, and they don't have to file an IRS 990 form, right? They don't have to disclose what they're doing. But yet, how do we know that they're actually bringing meaningful change to the community? How do we know that they're actually effective? We don't, because we're not holding them accountable.
Well, no.
And we've just been fully funding multiple nonprofits, so now bring accountability to that, right? We have a 33 fire station deficit here in Hillsborough County.
What does that mean? You need 33 more locations?
33 more.
Okay.
We need 33 fire stations right now in Hillsborough County, but yet we don't have it because we're hollering, we're crying, oh, we don't have the money to do so. Well, we've paid. We as citizens have paid the impact fees tenfold to be able to, to have those fire stations. Where is that money gone? Why was it misappropriated, misused? That's the questions that we should be asking. And you look at this new proposed budget has gone up over $500 million now for fiscal year 24, right? But yet we're going to bring in reportedly almost $140 million in new revenue, because of property values increasing. Millage rates are staying the same, but yet the assessed property values have gone through
the mill rate's still whatever it is, 4.4, but the house is now worth $1 million, not $600,000.
Yes.
So suddenly you're making $20,000 more a year.
Yes. So think about that elderly grandma, granddad who are on a fixed income, who are retired, who can't afford that huge jump in their property taxes. Think about the single mother working multiple jobs to put food on the table. That's the last thing she needs to be worrying about, because now her taxes are going up, and God forbid you're on homesteaded. Oh my gosh, the drastic increase there. And so
hold it. Let's homesteaded. What is that? Just give a little explanation, because you were talking about housing. What does homesteading mean here in Florida?
So homesteading means after you have lived in a home that you actually reside in for at least 2 years, you can then file for an exemption. Right, so
because it's your residence in your home,
domicile,
it's not an investment. It's not it's my grandmother lives there. It's her home. That's what it is. Is it a form of protection? Is it a form of? Does it protect you from increased taxes? Does it? Yes. I don't know. I'm trying to get it out.
So there's two components to that. The one is that you do receive of your taxable value of your home, there's a reduction of that amount. So
if it's homestead.
If it's homesteaded. And then the second part of homesteaded is that if you experience like what we saw in Tampa, there's an average of almost a 60% increase in property values amongst Tampa, then guess what? If you're homesteaded, you're only going to realize 3% of that.
Until you sell your home, and then you have the cash to do it if you're going to do it that way.
Yeah, and then that's when you get into all the 1031 exchanges and all that. But that's where it goes back to. And so we're going to bring in over $140 million in new tax revenue, but yet where's that money going to go? Right? How do we know that money is going to be used effectively, actually possibly implementing it towards workforce housing?
I'd love to point AI at the state budget and ask them similar questions where it can spit out the results.
And to the commissioner's point, I will say, every year, right, there is the cost of living goes up. Inflation has obviously played a big factor in that. So yes, salaries will go up. There's going to be some, for supply chain issues, things, that's to be expected, right? That's okay. But $500+ million worth?
It's a lot of wood. There's a lot of things can be done with it.
So I'm just wondering, how are we knowing that we are following every dollar and that is going to where it needs to be appropriated to? And so, let's look at possibly doing a rollback maybe $500,000 or a third of a mil, something.
Something to
just to
put it in
ease the
line.
burden right now, because right now, I mean, we're getting knocked across the head from multiple angles: gas, inflation, groceries, property taxes, insurance. There's an insurance crisis.
The price of a pub sub.
So, I mean, I ended up going to Chick-fil-A the other day, and I said, man, I remember when a chicken sandwich meal used to be, $8, $9, right? Now, I mean, you get everything, you get a large, and you're paying, $14, $15. You just go, oh my gosh.
Very quickly, very well. That's, I mean, when they print money, that's inevitable. That's how it works. Inflation is a direct result of government printing and spending money. It's pretty straightforward. I want to hit on something you said earlier about the nonprofits. Now, nonprofits are noble causes, and there's a lot of things going into them that are right. You don't turn around and leave people hungry because the homeless kitchen isn't.
Absolutely.
But if there's not proper reporting and you're not going down, it provides an avenue for funds to go in other areas without accountability. And I was thinking about this, like, I feel that our society goes from one tragedy, emergency to another, whether we've got a war or we've got inflation or the housing or whatever. And every one of them requires the politicians to pull an extra huge sum of money from everyone. And it needs to go there. Every year there's another one. Yeah. And then the money disappears. It's COVID. Oh, if there's a pandemic, the pharmaceutical companies become billionaires. Yeah. If there's a war, Raytheon and the plane companies become billionaires. Yeah. And it goes down the line. I think right now the politicians are using these social service type companies to do the same thing. Here's my example. I'm going to use New York as an example. They call themselves a sanctuary city. So it's a magnet for all the people coming in over the border and stuff, and they're flooding into the areas. Now that they've got all the money, they're saying, we want you all here, we want you all here, we want you all here. Suddenly they're all here and they're saying, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And then they turn to Washington, who appropriates huge amounts of money. How does that money get out? They give it to the Red Cross, and they give it to these organizations who then go pay for hotels and rooms and everything that goes into it. But all it is if you don't have accounting in it, like you just said, it becomes a means of a slush fund. It becomes the next one for who's getting the $1 billion out of the deal, and we won't know.
Yeah. And they look at it as, where the ends justify the means, right? You can hear that. And you go, and there are reports coming out of New York that they were kicking out, homeless veterans who, who were staying in these rentals or in these hotel rooms just to be able to, bed.
Well, there's a cadre of politicians who put other people other than citizens ahead of everyone else. Yeah. It's not right.
It's not right at all.
It's also, and I don't think people do it. And you were talking about the black vote and the poor vote, so to speak, is the more illegal immigration comes in, the harder competition the people who are struggling at the bottom have to get jobs and to do things, and it keeps them further lower down on the social stratosphere while the other people get pushed up higher. It's a real class division that's being created, and it's being created on purpose through this open borders and sanctuary cities, because the more people you keep in poverty, the more they're dependent on you for day-to-day meals. And in turn, the more they're going to vote for you because they're going to go hungry tomorrow.
Yes. And I think that is one, when you look at, Democratic policies, that is one thing that we have now been affected by.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, you look at that, going back to your point referencing, of the black vote. Yes, the Democrats think that they just have us secured, and they've gotten comfortable with it now for the past 60, 70 years.
How about we look at the history of the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
If you want to look at, not to be harsh, this is the party that gave us the KKK. Yeah. This is the party who fought for slavery. Yeah. Yeah. This is the party who gave us Jim Crow.
That's right.
Absolutely. You think Martin Luther King?
Yeah.
He was a Republican.
Yes.
By the way, for the same reasons. Right. And we think about, they talked about systemic racism and BLM destroying cities. Mm-hmm. Well, if I'm not mistaken, the system is the laws. And there was a law called the Biden Crime Bill in 1993, which created for-profit prisons and 3 strikes you're out. So the for-profit prisons went to their buddies, and then 3 strikes you're out. You filled those prisons up with poor people. Now that those prisons are all filled up, they rile them up during the pandemic, and BLM goes nuts. And they accuse someone else, not the person they put in the White House. He wrote the systemically racist bill that caused that type of system for people to destroy 26 cities.
Correct.
And I wish people knew this knowledge. It's just amazing. But the same people control our education system.
You'd be surprised at the amount of hate and the amount of name calling I've received coming up throughout the years, being a Black Republican. All right,
I believe it. I mean,
you name it, I've been called it. And people go, well, you're wrong because you're just joining that side and you're Uncle Tom. And he goes, well, do you actually know the history? You look from 1913 to 1964 was when the major shift happened between the two parties. Right, starting out with Grant and Taft, when they both decided to go against one another in primary, and then that allowed for Woodrow Wilson to then come in.
Who, by the way, put Birth of a Nation and put the whole KKK in the White House.
Yes.
I mean, it's
the Federal
just
Reserve, et cetera. And then, we just took multiple hits as a party. You look at the Teapot Dome scandal, you look at Coolidge, right, with the Great Depression. And then, we go fast forward to then
he actually
FDR.
Knows history.
Yeah, and then FDR came in, right, and then from there implementing
the Great Society
and the Great Society, and then from
LBJ
there,
putting out the welfare, which turned the household and kicked the men out of the household and basically paid the women to not have men there.
And incentivized young Black mothers to not have the father in the house.
I grew up without a father in the house, and I would say I probably should have been jailed 8 or 9 times, and I'm just lucky to get through it. If I had that type of structure, things could have been a lot different.
That's right. And you look at it, LBJ is going on record. He was a stout racist, staunch racist. And he said he didn't want to meet with.
I know exactly what he said after he signed that. I know I can't even say it. You probably could. I can't say.
And with the passage of this bill, we will have these N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
That's right. That was his statement.
And because by God, it is still happening to this day.
Because it made the families dependent on the government, not on the nuclear family and dad and mom taking care of their kids. Right. And this is being taken care of because they want the kids raised by the government, not by families.
Yes. And so, we had President Biden, during his election in 2020, and he said, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't Black. And
there's 100 of those statements. He's used the N-word on the Senate floor. Yeah. He states a variety of different things that way. Yeah. It's sad that the basic knowledge isn't understood, and I wished, and I open everyone who's listening to take a moment and look at the actual history of stuff, and you might learn a lot that way.
Awesome.
This has been great. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm going to give you the platform one more time to tell the audience why you're the man for this for us in Hillsborough County.
I'll tell you. So Rico Smith, running for Hillsborough County Commission, District 6, which is a county-wide seat. I graciously ask for your support and for your vote. Please visit my website, www.ricosmith.com. There you will find our support page, our endorsements, about me, a production-level campaign video that we put out not too long ago. And you can really just follow along. And please reach out anytime. Fill out the contact form. Again, we have a primary August 20th of 2024 and a general election in November 5th of 2024. So thank you again, James, for having me. This is
well, you're on your way. Thank you for coming in, Rico. Vote RicoSmith.com. Yes. And thank you for coming into the Presentation Help podcast. We say goodbye here from Embark Studios in Tampa, Florida.
Bye.